You're listening to Broncos for Breakfast with Nick Kendell and Scott Kennedy.
Which means it's time for another episode of Broncos for Breakfast. And I am joined today by my good friend, co-host, Scott Kennedy. Scott, our names are missing. What's going on?
I don't know. We'll have to bring up some banners, I guess. We could probably find ourselves in there somewhere. Did you forget to sign in today? Am I Facebook user 1? Or I'd be Facebook user 2 for sure. You're number 1. You're number 1.
Not in this house. God, I'll say that. It's the cat, the dog, the wife, and then
smart man.
Yeah,
I say yeah, it's a democracy in the house, but she's got 51% of the vote. So
yeah. Yep, absolutely.
And the other line I use, and you can use this one whenever anybody asks me anything, I'm like, I don't know. You know, I'm labor, not management.
Oh man, that one almost has too real. That was a forced laugh because I don't want to look.
Does it hurt? Did I stick that one in just a little bit?
Yeah, I don't want to look that deep in the mirror. But yeah, guys, welcome in. You guys can follow us both on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. You can follow us also at Mile High Huddle and at Huddle Up Pod. Make sure you guys go over to huddleuppod.com to get your swag on. I got a hat coming on the way, so you got your Broncos for Breakfast gear there. Facebook folks, join us. You need to get yours. Yeah, I mean, you always have your gear going. I always have my bedhead going this early in the morning. But Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Also, join us on YouTube by subscribing, liking, and sharing. And make sure you guys are getting your stars and your super chats in. So that way you get a chance to win a Justin Simmons jersey. The top 5 super chat givers this month will get a chance to draw, and a minimum of 500 stars gets you your name in the hat, I guess the metaphorical hat, to win that Justin Simmons jersey, which, man, Justin Simmons had a pretty good game this week. Maybe wasn't the best safety on the field, but we'll get into that here. We're going to talk a little bit of risers and fallers and guys who stood out to us. Let's say hello to the chat. Good morning from Jason O'Neill. Too bad about Josie, man. Repping the Hawks, that's a big bummer for me. I'm like, please just don't let him be injured. He was playing great too. Next man or men up, cough, Stranada Browning. I have heard and read rumors about trading for a player and was curious if we need to. We'll see. We'll get into that a little bit. EJ's coming in. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Good to see you, EJ. US Dave, morning all. DBA, good morning, everyone. Broncos and Raiders are the only 2-0 teams in the AFC. Don't lie to me if you think that's how it was going to turn out this early season, but football's great. And, Broncos don't have to apologize for being 2-0. I already see the media kind of getting at them or some other fans. Like, you play who's in front of you. That's all you can do.
Well, it's what I've said this whole time. You know, when you're 5-11 the year before, you know, until you beat those teams, you are one of those teams. So It's like, they haven't beaten anybody. Well, we weren't anybody last year. You know, and that's the answer for this is we were one of those teams. So now we've taken a step above them where you're not giving us credit for beating the bad teams. So you are by default admitting that we're a good team.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to, I say all the time, you don't have to apologize. You didn't make the schedule. You only can play who's in front of you and you take care of business. And then you can talk about, your schedule is too easy. Well, it looks easy right now because we whipped them. Sorry, I guess. Dave Glassman coming up. Good to see you, Dave. We got Chris Beeston in the house. Morning, fellas. Good morning to you, Chris. Albert and Alpers. Albert, it's been a minute. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. What's up, guys? Says Albert. We got Greg Smith here also. Good morning. Broncos for breakfast. And Nick and Scott, aloha. Andrew Morrow's in here too. Good morning, gentlemen. Nice being 2-0. And Michael Ronquillo. Good to see you, Michael. Good morning, Nick and Scott from Broncos for breakfast. And Greg Smith. Always love saying hello to Greg Smith too. I love that. What a brotherhood. And Broncos country as well. Go
and
Broncos.
Michael, appreciate the stars that came with that too. I know you were super active on the stars last night on the Mile High Huddle pod. And I think if you're not at the very top of the stars ranking, you're knocking on the door. So appreciate the support through all the podcasts.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. That means a lot. But make sure you keep coming back to this one. No, we'll see you. Alan Perez, good morning to you all. Will Wilson see ghosts after this weekend? He might already be seeing ghosts. God, let's talk about that too. We'll probably get more into that on Thursday. Christopher Espinoza saying, good morning, guys. It's great to be a Broncos fan. Yes, it is. Once again, it's been a bit, but it's always been great, but it's been a little bit less palatable than it's been this year. And Michael Ronquillo, good morning, buddy. Good to see you. Miguel coming in here too. Good morning from New Mexico. Broncos for breakfast. So said hello to everybody in the chat. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for joining us early. Hopefully we'll keep it rolling here and we can keep talking a little bit of ball. But we want to talk some Denver Broncos versus Jacksonville Jaguars. The Broncos are 2-0, which is fantastic. And we have had some injuries. The games have not been totally clean, but we want to just talk a little bit of who stood out to us, who is disappointed, and who are guys that, have taken us back in a positive way. So, Scott, I'll give you the floor first. Anybody from this Jacksonville Jaguars game, unless you want to talk just general Jags Broncos before you get into that.
Listen up, Broncos country. TickPick should be your first choice to buy football tickets because they save fans money by never charging any service fees ever. TickPick is the exclusive ticketing partner for the Huddle Up podcast and the Blue Wire Network.
Denver Broncos football is finally back, and there's no need to exhaust yourself searching all over the internet to find Broncos tickets anymore, because TickPick, that's TickPick, is the original no-fee ticket site and the only one you'll ever need as your go-to for all NFL tickets. TickPick got rid of all those awful service fees that the other ticket sites charge, which lets them guarantee the best prices on all of their NFL tickets. Don't believe it? If you can find better prices for the same seats on another ticket site, TickPick will give you 110% of the difference in the purchase price.
That's right, guys. When we were searching for tickets for the MHH meet and greet for Week 3 at home, Broncos versus Jets, TickPick had us locked down. So visit tickpick.com/huddle today and use the promo code HUDDLE to save $10 on your first order of Broncos tickets.
I think I can talk general first. We talked about what could go wrong for this game. What are some of the things to look for? And we talked about, Chark, O'Shaughnessy, Jones not dropping every pass that was thrown to him like they did in week 1. And they didn't. They came out hot. They came out firing very well because Trevor Lawrence was good in that first game. He was really good. And I think we told y'all last week on Thursday, if you haven't seen Trevor Lawrence play, you're going to like what you see. I mean, the talent, the tools, the size, the athleticism, it's all there. So they came out hot. Nice throw, finished off the run with to Marvin Jones on a nice pass to the end zone. Denver slowly took control of this game, and I guess my overall thought of this at the end was Auburn Tigers had an undefeated season under Tommy Tuberville, and they were dominating. They were just totally dominating that year, but they didn't blow teams out. Tommy Tuberville got the nickname Tubber Shell, because he would kind of it was like a boa constrictor. It's like, we're going to get the lead, and then we're just going to squeeze you. We're just going to squeeze the life out of you and have a nice, comfortable win. To me, that's kind of what this felt like. It felt, while the score wasn't, it ended up being a little closer than it really was because of a late score by Jacksonville. This felt like a boa constrictor, just squeeze the life out of you. Never in doubt, we're going to win this game. We're the better team, and it was a good overall win for the Broncos.
Yeah, and again, I hate to be the guy that talks about the zebras, but I felt like some games you're going to have it where the reffing does not fall on you because it's random. They're doing the best they can. I don't think there's any maliciousness from them, but it was a game where some calls went one way and they didn't go the Broncos' way, and it might have been a little even closer, or not as close, if it would have been a more, I don't want to say fairly, but just a better ref game.
Well, it started off early.
Yeah.
It started off really early, a pass interference call against Patrick Surtain. And when you're watching like I had to watch on a condensed game, those happen within about 25 seconds of each other.
Yep.
Pass interference, an underthrown ball, which is just, it's impossible for that. That's such an unfair, you did it, but when it's underthrown and the guy you're chasing just slams on the brakes,
yep,
and you bump into him, you're like, man, what am I supposed to do? So, okay, pass interference.
Yeah.
But then 2 plays later on the other side, Teddy Bridgewater goes deep to Sutton.
Yeah.
And you can say it was underthrown a little bit, but it was 55 yards in the air. If anything, it just needs to come out sooner. Sutton throws on the brakes. Shaq Griffin runs into him. They tip. They're watching the ball fly around. They get all dizzy. The refs get confused because the ball's bouncing all over the place. It was the same play.
Yeah.
That should have been first and goal at the 9.
Yep.
Instead, it was a punting situation. So. I agree with you early on, specifically there. At the end of the half, though, I thought that I think it was Caden Stearns. I thought he was a little lucky not to get a personal foul, shoving. I think it was Chark out of bounds. Could have gotten 15 and set him up for a shorter field goal. So, but the big one for me was like, be consistent on that call, please. It's a crap call against a defensive back anyway, but be consistent with it at least.
Yeah, I saw you this weekend. Speaking of bad calls, I saw you fuming about that Auburn Penn State game.
Oh, the
I'm with
targeting
you.
on that.
Yeah,
the targeting in college football is just out of control. But
yeah,
if anybody cares, we can talk about that later.
yeah, that was not good. Almost as bad as the taunting this weekend too. That was really dumb as well, but not dumb. Doug Freeland coming in. Morning, guys. Cute pup. Keep that picture coming. Joe Webster's in the house. Morning, Broncos for breakfast. Morning to you, Joe. Good to see you. Jason O'Neill. What are some of the keys for a faster start? The opponents from weeks 4 to 8 can and will score, but our defense is really stout. Keys for starting faster? How about this is something that's bothered me. The Broncos this week. Let me pull up the box score here real quick. Team stats. Okay, I do not see it on here. The Broncos. Oh, here we go. 2 for 11 on third down. 2 for 11 for third down is not going to get it done against better teams. And how are you better on third down? You're better on first and second down. And the Broncos, I feel like continuously in this game were 3rd and long, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 14. So they need to be better on first and second down. And a lot of that comes down to either play calling, not, just running it into the backs of your offensive linemen, especially if the other team is stacking the box, or just running it more efficiently. But right now, like the third downs, not good. And it's because they're not winning on first and second down.
And Peter coming in with the stars, talking about Broncos for breakfast with the big burgers and fries. I think any type of breakfast food is good for dinner and vice versa. I mean, cold pizza, for goodness sake, that became a show. It's such a good thing. And waffles and scrambled eggs for dinner. Yes, please. So Peter, appreciate the stars on this. But getting back to it, I think we talked early about last week about Jacksonville selling out to stop the run. Is Teddy going to beat us over the top? And the looking at the box score at the first half, one of the things that surprised me, it was almost a 2-to-1 pass ratio. Yeah. So there wasn't a lot of early success running, but there wasn't necessarily a commitment to going with the run as well. And some of those stats can get skewed a little bit. A big 16-yard sack to kill the first drive. That was a blown assignment, not necessarily a bad play. Garrett Bowles, when Teddy's rolling out to his left and Garrett Bowles releases a guy to his left, I watched him after that play and Garrett Bowles looks around like, what on earth? So someone got their signals crossed on that play. Yeah. But yeah, getting the running game going, you had a new starter in there with Muti. Reisner has been okay.
Good pass ball.
But I think we liked what we saw out of Javonte Williams running the ball, close to a 5-yard average, whereas Gordon was about 2.5. Yeah. But I think you gotta get the running game going a little bit more to have, like you said, to be in better situationals on third down.
Yeah, it's kind of like the way I look at it on third down is if you're third and short, you have access to the entire menu, because you can go short if you want to. You can take a home run shot over the top because the defense is thinking we got to stop this third down. You have play action is in your pocket as well, something that if you're not third and short, teams aren't going to buy it. So that's all stuff that you only have $1 in your pocket when you're 3rd and 11 and you can buy from the dollar menu. That's not what you want. So you have to be a little bit better on first and second down. That stood out to me. Penalties are another one that stood out to me for the Broncos. I mean, this does show like how bad the Jags are, but how good this Broncos team can be as well, or just the talent deficit or gap between these two teams. Broncos had, let me pull it up here, 10 penalties for 101 yards. Like that is not going out there and playing clean football, right? Like there are teams where you're not going to have that margin for error where you can't do that. But the Broncos came out and won this game. I mean, the defense only gave up 7 points, right? Besides this God blessed special teams touchdown they gave up. But I did a radio hit yesterday. I'm like, oh yeah, Broncos, they only gave up 7 points. So like, it was 13. It's like, God, the special teams. I'm blocking that in my head.
Broncos defense only gave up. You can say it that way. And I'm going back to the OL, Peter. Appreciate your support as always. He's played 2 decent defensive end groups, right? Are they really so bad, or is it just the players they were facing? I think the Giants front four, or however you want to call it, depending on whatever their scheme is, their defensive front is considerably better than the Jacksonville defensive front. I was expecting the Broncos to have a little more success running the ball. That said, Teddy Bridgewater uses the passing game a lot like a running game. His first 7 passes were to 6 different receivers. Most of those were short plays. That's basically, okay, you're going to stack the box. I'm going to take a 3-step drop. I'm going to look around, and I'm going to hit somebody 5 yards away from me in the flat. It's very similar to a running game. So, and it almost was like at times the Broncos offense using Teddy Bridgewater was an extension of the running game. And that loosens things up. It definitely loosens things up for later on in the game. It brings the safeties in a little tighter to try and stop that so you can go over the top of them. And again, the Broncos had several shots downfield based on the way the defense was playing. So if you're going to give me the long shot, I'll take it.
Yeah, and I think Vic Fangio in his press conference yesterday mentioned that their first two opponents they've played have schematically done a lot to try to take away the run game with box numbers and slanting linebackers coming downhill at the snap. And they're just saying, we don't really trust the offensive line and Teddy Bridgewater to beat us. So we're going to take away the run game and see how that works. And so far, it hasn't worked. Teddy's been playing great football. And
look at the overall picture, right? The overall picture was 400 yards of offense.
Yeah.
So if you're going to say if you're good enough on defense that you can play honest, stop the run with your front, and then stop the pass, there aren't many defenses like that.
Nope.
So when you're the Jacksonville Jaguars and you're okay on defense, they had to stop something. They sold out to sell the running game. We're not sold that Teddy Bridgewater is going to beat us. Guess what? Teddy Bridgewater beats you.
Yeah.
Obviously not just Teddy Bridgewater, but he's thrown for 300 yards on about 75% passing, a couple of touchdowns, moving the ball in the pocket. Buying time, making the right plays.
Yep.
And Teddy Bridgewater and that Broncos offense still beat you handily. It was 2-1 in yards, 400 to 200. That was like I said, the score doesn't look it, but that was a dominating display by the Denver Broncos.
Yep. They just got to clean up a few things here and there, but it was a good game overall, besides some of the injuries and some frustrations just because you were expecting to beat the Jags. But, good teams win, great teams cover the spread, and the Broncos have done that 2 weeks in a row, so can't be too upset.
And this was a road game.
Yep. And also, people don't want to take this for granted too. Back-to-back games on the East Coast. Historically, Broncos have a very hard time winning games on the Eastern time zone. I mean, that dates back to when they had Elway even. So the East time zone, those early kickoffs, they've had issues with that. And Broncos are 2-0 on the East. Now they get to have their first home game. It's going to be rocking. I'm really excited. We got Mark coming in here. Good morning, y'all. Cute dog always is. As always, Mark. Teddy Two Gloves is top 7 quarterback in stats to start the season. It must be so early. I'm still sleeping because I was told he was Teddy checked down this offseason. Teddy Bridgewater, number 2 in air yards so far. Pretty high up there in yards per attempt. I think he's either the 1, 2, or 3 quarterback when you look at completion percentage over expected and EPA per play. So, yeah, he's been great. And, yes, they played the Jags. Yes, they played the Giants, who are good defense. This will normalize some as the season continues. Yes. But Teddy Bridgewater is playing great. Part of it also is, we talked about it, teams are tight, stacking the box, playing single high safety a lot to take away the run game, and Teddy's making them pay. So is he going to finish the year as the best quarterback in football? Probably not.
Does he have to?
No, I mean, honestly, he could really, honest to God, with the way he's playing right now, the mastery he already looks like he has of this offense, staying healthy, the weapons he has, putting those guys in good spots. I don't think it's out of the picture to say he will finish the season as a top 10 to 12 quarterback statistically. And that's with a great defense where they're playing, take the air out of the ball sometimes against these teams. So he's playing better than anybody could have expected. Really.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a Teddy fan. I've been a Teddy fan for a long time. I didn't expect him to come out and play this well. So, and I had high hopes for Teddy Bridgewater. And that's nothing against Drew Lock. I've followed Teddy since he was in high school and just love the guy. And like I said before, even if you don't like here comes a retread, this guy he's on his 5th team. I get all that. I do. But Teddy Bridgewater is a really, really easy guy to root for. He really is. And when he's playing this well, he's going to, you're going to put a statue up for him, for goodness sakes. I mean, I'm exaggerating, of course, but he's just such a good person, teammate, leader, community member, that he's really, really easy to root for. And when he's playing this well, everybody's easy to root for. You can make excuses for guys that are, a-holes to root for them. They might be an a-hole, but they're my a-hole.
I was talking to somebody who watches a lot of quarterbacks on the other day, and he's like, Teddy looks springy again, and he has not looked springy in a long time. I don't know if he's trusted that knee. I mean, even he looked good early last year in Carolina.
And how long was that knee injury? Was it 4 years, 3 years?
Something like, I mean, there was talk of his leg being amputated. Like it was that.
Yeah, I
serious
mean,
of an injury.
it's been a while. A true ACL injury, a good ACL injury for a quick twitch, when you're talking about a springy type of thing, is 18 months.
Yeah.
So, we said, what can you expect from Cortland Sutton? Sutton, it will be back faster because he is a size receiver. He's not necessarily a cut receiver like a cornerback is, but a cornerback type of player to come back, or a slot guy to come back 100% from an injury like that, is 18 months.
Yeah.
Teddy's was worse. Teddy's was worse.
Yeah.
So, if he's fully healthy again, and not even just healthy in the leg, but, up here mentally,
confident,
to you just use the word trust, then you got yourself a good quarterback.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of good comments coming in here. Karaoke Chris, good morning, guys. It was a rough game, but we made out with a W. I guess there are ways that you could win games that it would not be worth it, like if your whole team got hurt. But that's not the case here. Any win's a good win, so we'll take it. Miguel coming in here saying, are Reisner and Cushenberry really playing as bad as Eric Trickle is saying? They're struggling, and I think it's a big issue right now that they're both next to each other also, because when it's a run game, it's like a black hole there where they can't get any push. They're getting beat. Reisner has been solid in pass protection, so you don't want to totally take him out. And also Cushenberry's not playing like the worst center in football. Like he has taken steps since last year, but in the run game right now, those two guys are just getting no push. And it's really just anchoring the entire run game.
And speaking of anchor, I put a special eye on Muti, just because he was new in, and I had been a little critical of him in the preseason, and I thought he was actually better. He's supposed to be this strong man. I actually thought he was better in pass protection when he could drop back and anchor. That was exactly the word I was thinking. Sink his hips in, engage, and then he wasn't being moved. Then he wasn't being, where he had trouble was when there wasn't a guy lined up head over him and he had to rotate, slide right or left, and then he had a little more trouble. But when you needed to drop back and pass, and he's doing, dropping 3 steps and engaging, he was really good. So Muti had his moments. For the disappointing player for me, if we want to hit on that just a little bit, I think you're really going to miss Josie Jewell in pass coverage. When we start talking about Alexander Johnson, I thought he's been a liability in pass coverage, which is why we haven't seen him as much, and we've seen more of Josie Jewell. Well, now Josie Jewell's not an option. So who's your other guy in there? Baron Browning? Baron Browning is more of a go forward, run stuffing in middle linebacker 3-4. So now you're looking at Baron Browning and Josie and Alexander Johnson. So hopefully Strnad can step up and fill that role really well, because now all of a sudden your nickel linebacker is starting to look a little shaky right now.
It sucks. He was playing really good football. He was the team. Alexander Johnson, since he started hot his first year with the Broncos, starting with the Broncos, he's been one that's a lot of people have had like, oh, this could be a top 10 linebacker. He hasn't really lived up to that since then. He's been good. Josie Jewell's been far and away their best linebacker for the last year and a half. And he was playing at a level that like it was finally all clicking for him, like his understanding of the defense. He's also like Josie Jewell, white, small, 0-star recruit from who knows where, Decorah, Iowa. But he actually is super twitchy, like side to side. I think he was like the 97th percentile for the 3-cone, which is great. I mean, that's a Bill Belichick, I'll give me that. Also, he's really high in the shuttle as well. So those agility stuff, he's not super big or long, and he also doesn't have great long speed. But if he's playing with from the neck up, which he was, he can be good in coverage. He's not really getting out of place. And Fangio is also not asking these linebackers to do anything crazy, because he has the pass rush in the secondary around them to kind of, funnel the run game to them, etc. They'll match up against a running back sometimes, but it's a big loss. I'm very disappointed to lose him.
Yeah, and circling back real quick, Sutton is small for our big wide receiver compared to the league. He's 6'4". He's a big dude. When you're 6'4", you're not a quick twitch slot guy. Your strength is still, your biggest strength is still your size. That was the only point I was trying to make, is that 6'4" doesn't go away even if you had a knee injury. Going back to the injuries, this one we've talked a lot about the injuries that the Broncos have had, but this one, no pun intended, but it really hurts because this is the first real season-ending injury. This is the first of that lot. where a lot of the other ones are like, okay, we can beat the Giants. We can beat the Jaguars. We can beat the Jets. While some of these guys who are out early get healthy and come back. And now we've got some experience and some guys that weren't necessarily starters to begin with. But this one, there's no silver lining on this one. This one hurts. He's out for the year. And now someone's got to step up. Now, yesterday in the chats, I heard a lot of people asking about trading for a middle linebacker. Let's trade Melvin Gordon for a middle linebacker. I don't see that happening. A guy that's going to be an upgrade for, over Johnson, over Strnad, isn't going to be one to let go by another team, unless he's a problem, which you don't want to bring in anyway. So I don't see that necessarily happening. And, you don't have a ton of depth at the running back position either. 2 is really good, but you don't want to be giving away, trading away Melvin Gordon right now either.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think maybe people are sleeping on Jonas Griffith as well. I know they brought him in as a special teams ace. Hasn't helped McMahon yet. But he's a great athlete. And I thought he flashed in preseason as well in the reps he had. So he's one that's going to be farther behind. Maybe you won't see him, but he is one also you want to throw out there. And I'm excited to see Strnad. I think he's the guy that you're really looking forward to here. And you said there's no silver lining for Jewell. I will say the only silver lining is it's probably the least valuable position on the defense for Fangio. And it's one where you're most likely to be able to scheme any issues away.
I just mean from a stance of, okay, we're going to get some other guys some playing time while he gets healthy. Now he ain't coming back this year. And Peter says he was hurt on special teams too. And I know there's been a lot of Michael had a stars comment in here too about McMahon having a job on special teams, and this doesn't help for sure. Not only was he hurt on special teams, but he was blocked in the back on that play. I don't know if the announcing crew called that out, but that's one of those that typically gets called, catcher's interference, punt receiver interference or something like that, or that probably would have been a targeting call in college.
Yeah.
He was blocked in the back, so it didn't do his return man any favors either by accelerating a 250-pound linebacker into you while you're trying to bring the ball upfield.
Yeah, it's a major bummer. Jewell was playing great. Also, I feel really bad for him because it was a contract year, and he was looking like he was going to make some serious money, considering the lack of linebacker talent across the league and how good he actually was in coverage. Like, people are like, oh, they see Jewell. I think they just immediately put him in a box because of how he looks, but he was killing it in coverage. I mean, he had like 3 tackles, 2 for loss, and
his we've going into the season, as we're talking about the team, I hadn't watched the Broncos last year. I hadn't seen much of Josie Jewell. So the talk about him was the 2 inside linebackers are good going forward, not so good going laterally. Well, the first time I saw Josie Jewell, he's going to the sidelines and stopping a screen pass for 3 yards. I'm like, that looks lateral to me.
Yeah.
So he had, if it was a deficiency last year, it had turned into a strength for him this year because he was doing a very good job covering those backs and tight ends out of the backfield and moving laterally. That's unfortunate for sure. Peter calling out Gary. Thank you. Nice save, Scott. Broncos for breakfast, coffee. Absolutely. Cheers. Absolutely. Got my coffee going right now. You can tell I've got a good caffeinated bliss going. Might take Nick a little while to wake up completely. I've been up for 3.5 hours already. So,
man,
Gary, appreciate you being here.
I did go to bed at 9:30 last night though, and it was glorious. My wife had a bunch of friends out here this weekend for a bachelorette party, and I was driving at 3 a.m. kind of thing, picking people up. So.
That used to be good in college, being a designated driver. You had some fringe benefits, but not so much when you're married and just want to go to bed.
Yeah, no, just doing my part. Mo, I want to get to you real quick. Good to see you, Mo. Good morning. Broncos are playing 3 straight garbage teams, so I don't know if the Giants are garbage. I think they are probably a team that they could have won that game against Washington football team very easily, and that was on the road, and that was despite some pretty bad offensive line play, mistakes there. The Giants easily 1-1. They'll probably normalize. Honestly, Daniel Jones is playing good football. But 3 straight garbage teams. Again, you can only beat who's in front of you. If anybody's out there, making a bust or a statue in front of, Bronco Stadium, whatever the heck they call it these days, of Teddy Bridgewater, and they're planning the Super Bowl parade. Okay, pump the brakes. But this team hasn't been 2-0 in a while. The Chiefs lost, the Chargers lost, probably their two biggest rivals, most biggest threats. I know the Raiders are playing great too. AFC West is a beast, man. But if you can't be happy about 2-0, then I don't know, man. Like you got to find your joy somewhere. This team is playing good. They do have injuries. That's probably my biggest point that's upsetting so far. But 3 straight garbage teams, great. Are we going to be 3-0? That's what matters.
Well, and there's 2 back-to-back comments here from CC. I'm not certain that the 19 and 20 Broncos beat the teams. Forget convincingly. How about as Kyle Hudson says, we're winning against teams that we're supposed to beat. And again, like you just said, haven't been 2-0 in a while. Has Vic Fangio won a September game? Wasn't that the big knock? So it had to have been a while. You're 0 for September. And I'll say it one more time. I'm sorry, and then I won't say it again for the rest of the show. I promise. But until you're beating those teams, you are one of those teams. So guess what? You're going to hear more of it after this weekend when you beat the Jets' butts at home, because they're the worst of these 3 teams. I'd go Giants, Jags, Jets. You're getting them in order. So I think the Giants are the best team you've played so far. Jacksonville next, and then the Jets are going to be dueling with the Jaguars and Falcons and maybe Lions for the number 1 overall pick again. Yep,
I totally agree with you there. Man, the Lions are terrible. It was a good week of football, though. There's a lot of good football coming on. I want to say hello, Kayleon. Good to see you. So let's talk a little bit of stock now that we're half an hour in to our morning show. The coffee is really starting to course through my veins, feeling good. Guys who are stock up for me, I want to give a shout out to somebody who the Broncos treated as replaceable this year. And while his skill set maybe is not the most valuable on the open market, he brings a lot of energy to this game and just such a vet presence on that back end. Kareem Jackson. Kareem Jackson was flying all over the field in this game. I was super impressed with him. He had 7 tackles. I did have a missed tackle too, but I mean, his energy came down and made some big plays. Obviously, Justin Simmons is the ace back there. The guy you're going to see more in cover 1 looks or dropping back. But Kareem, even though he is not the same athlete he used to be, he's so instinctual. And again, he's an energy player on that back end. When he makes a big play, the defense feeds off of it. I was so impressed with Kareem.
Well, when you want your veteran leaders leading by example, and he throws his body in there like he's a 22-year-old or, a 20-year-old safety in college trying to make his name who hasn't concussed himself 100 times yet. I mean, the way that he flies into tackles coming from the safety position is inspiring to a defense, especially with a guy that's like, dude, this old man can do it. I can certainly do it. It's a great example for the younger players. So I'm going to do the same player for both, because early on, and I thought even last year, I thought Kyle Fuller at corner last week struggled a little bit. When I look at, I've seen some talk about Darby. Did Surtain take Darby's spot? This to me, the one that's on the bubble is Fuller. For all the money and all the pedigree on there, Fuller's been picked on a little bit. Yeah, picked on early, first drive, touchdown, got beat. Then came back, and I thought he came back and had a really good game to help shut them down. Because if you're looking at 200 yards of total offense, 75 of those were in the first drive. So, after the first drive, like I said, boa constrictor. Denver just put the clamps on him and shut him down.
Classic Big Ten football, right? And just power. You want to get the run game going a little bit more. But so far, that's good teams and they're limiting mistakes. So can't be too upset about that. Also, Broncos winning the turnover battle 2-0 while they were, terrible on third down. They're bad in penalties. When you're winning the turnover battle +2, you're going to win most games. So that's a good call. I was a little bit disappointed in Fuller as well. And while I think apparently a rumor came out that the Saints tried pretty hard to trade for Fuller before they traded for Roby. So maybe you see something down the line here with that. I think that's probably not super likely with the Broncos being 2-0 now. They're going to probably want to hold on to their depth. But he's disappointed.
Especially with the injuries showing up the way they've shown up.
Yep, I agree with you. The biggest one, though, for me is Kyle Fuller is probably playing himself. It's so early. Who knows? But so far, the trend would be playing himself out of Denver. He's somebody with the name, the pedigree, the All-Pro. He signed a 1-year deal in Denver.
He's a 1-year guy, right?
Yep. we'll use him this year. He'll be great. But you're probably saying, you know what, Kyle, hopefully we get a comp pick for you, and we'll roll with Surtain, Darby, bring back Callahan, and maybe another Ojemudia as well.
I was saying Ojemudia is your guy, isn't he?
I do like Ojemudia. I love him as that fourth cornerback. That's his. Maybe he could develop into that third, but that fourth guy where he can be super versatile, play some special teams. I think he's great there. The Kayvon Webster for the Bronco fans out there. He was the fourth cornerback in that no-fly zone, and he was on the field. He was fine, but you love to have him out there for his physicality, and his versatility. And our cloud coming in, Fuller's human, things happen. Absolutely, you're right. I'm not expecting perfection, but
yeah, we're not writing them off. But we're talking about guys who we thought didn't have as good of games as others, and it's hard to. If we're going to have that as a topic, we got to talk about guys that didn't necessarily have the great games.
Yep.
He's brand new. He's new to the team, first year. A lot of pressure on a guy like that, and it takes some guys a little while longer to adapt than others, scheme-wise, culture-wise, all of those things. And like I said, I saw a transformation during the game. He got beat, picked himself off, and was part of a defense that just shut down Jacksonville the last 3.5 quarters of the game. So you don't want to be overly negative, but if we're going to talk about positives and negatives, we're going to have to single some guys out. Doesn't mean we're writing them off by any stretch.
No, you're 100% right. And stock up for me, the cornerback who's been the most impressive for me 2 games in a row has been Bryce Callahan. I know he's just a slot cornerback, but when he's healthy, he's so good. He's obviously the most immersed in the scheme, which is probably helping him as well, given this is his 3rd year in Denver. And I mean, he's played his whole career essentially, besides 1 year, I think, with maybe his whole career for Vic Fangio and Ed Donatel. So that helps him a lot. But Bryce Callahan, if you could get him, which I would be shocked if you couldn't, for a cheaper deal than Fuller, when the market opens up this year, you can probably get, way more value, because he's playing at such a high level. A lot of it will come down to, how Surtain looks down the stretch. If we're going to see Kerry Vincent Jr., who's probably drafted to be that slot takeover guy, in theory. But Bryce Callahan has been playing really good football, and I think we need to appreciate that, because I think they were listening and got pretty close to maybe trading him this offseason. They were putting him up, on the trading block, saying, hey, if you're going to give us the 3, we'd listen.
How about I'm going to take an easy stock up, Nick, but I'm going to call it a play that it was probably shown. Like I said, I watched these on the condensed game, so I don't know what gets highlighted during. So if this was already made a big deal, I apologize, but it was a big deal to me. But Javonte Williams, you see what he can do with the ball in his hands. But unless you're, the best running back in the league, you better be able to block, especially as a rookie to get on the field, or else they're going to say, oh, we can't trust him in pass protection in order to have him on the field. So I wrote it down the timestamp, 4:21 to go in the second quarter. It was 3rd and 6, safety blitz. So it was a delayed safety blitz. Williams steps up and absolutely stones a safety, just takes him and just drives him off into the right tackle. Gone. Like, that's how you get on the field, Rook. That's how you stay on the field. Everything else can matter. 3rd and 6 was completed to Sutton. I think the next play was the touchdown to Sutton. It was right in that neighborhood. So stock up, but not just for the flashy stuff, but for the stuff that has to be done from a running back if you want to play in the NFL. And Javonte Williams did it brilliantly in this game.
Yeah, no, he played great. There's got to be a stat out there. I'm still kind of getting my feet back in the NFL game as far as like all the stats, but maybe Football Outsiders has one where it's like yards that were not singular yards that the running back created themselves. Because most of the time, the yards that the running back get, they were handed to them by the offensive line. But Javonte Williams was out there making the yards out there because the offensive line was struggling. And you could see that with the juxtaposition between Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. And while Melvin, obviously, to me, is the more, if he gets to the second level or breaks the second level, giddy up. He could be gone. We saw that week 1. But Williams on a down-to-down basis with how good he is in a phone booth, how good he is like planting that foot, letting the line slide, and then finding, a gap or a hole on the other side, pressing the line. He's so good at pressing the line of scrimmage that maybe he does need to be the more featured guy. And then maybe you go to Melvin Gordon later after Williams has punched him in the mouth a few times.
It'll be week to week. And, we talked in the summer about it. It might be like having a closer, like you just said, having the guy come in and wear down the defense and then having the other one come in and gets the fourth quarter. So I've said I said, what do you think? I think the split's going to be about 50-50. Well, in this one, it was 50-50. It was 13 carries each.
Yeah.
Having two guys like this, it's not always going to be the same guy. It's not going to be the same player that's going to be the guy for any specific game. Having two of them means we're gonna go with the hot hand. We're gonna go with the scheme matchups. We're gonna go with a form table. Who's playing well right now and who's having the game. And so far, it's 1-1 in 2 games. Javonte Williams was the better back this week, and Melvin Gordon was probably the better back last week.
Yep.
And if not, it's arguable. It's close. But you need both of those guys. Melvin Gordon's going to have his time for sure. We're not writing him off either.
No. And Richie Rich, yards after contact, that's not exactly what I was getting at. That's a good indicator, though. But I think Football Outsiders has a stat that maybe I'll dig into at some point with that. Stock up. How about Cortland Sutton? Man, I know that there was that video released of him running, doing that drill. Week 1, I went back and watched him. He was hobbling after some plays as well. This week, he was, looking a little bit, stretching my leg a little bit after a play. Dude's good. Dude just gets football, getting open. It was awesome to see Teddy Bridgewater and him hook up. He could have had a 200-yard game. Man, welcome back, Cortland Sutton. It's great to see. He's going to get better every week. He's definitely, maybe he's had to ice up a little bit after this game, but he was feeling himself after this game too, being like, okay, this is why I'm here. Like, it's my time to shine again. It's a little bit of a bummer that we're not seeing him and Judy together right now, fully operational offense, but seeing Sutton out there doing what he did was awesome to see, because another great guy, good person to pull for, and what he's going through in a contract year too. Good for him, man. What a game for Cortland Sutton. Big
the contract year might not be good for the Broncos. But
yeah,
like I said, it's
players, though.
Yeah, pull for players for sure. But it's a two-way. It goes both ways. If he plays his way to the point that you can't afford him, it means you just had a great year from Cortland Sutton. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. And right now, money hasn't been the problem with the Denver Broncos. There is money available depending on how they want to spend it. Stock up for sure. The big question obviously is coming back from an injury. All the questions, again, we've said it before, all the questions that we've had of this team coming in have been answered so far, except for one, which is can they stay healthy? And that's the only one that I think would be a negative right now. Is there's been too many injuries early. This isn't sustainable. So hopefully the injury bug flies away somewhere. Yeah,
and luckily, besides the Josie Jewell one, the injuries have been not season long. We're hoping that you're not going to have long-term issues with Chubb and Judy's injuries, and major bummer for Chubb too. I know that Malik Reed out there, they had a little bit of pass rush once Chubb was subbed off, but he's not healthy. He did want to go, but you're gonna need Chubb if this team is going to make some noise, not only making the playoffs but in the playoffs as well, because he's a difference maker out there when he's healthy. So gonna be a little bit of a bummer until he's out there. Stock down for me in this one. Somebody who had a chance to have a redemption game and did not, and also had some plays where awareness down. KJ Hamler. I was expecting a big game from him, especially with all of the talk they had from him this week. I thought Teddy Bridgewater was going to force feed him, and there was a play where KJ Hamler had nobody within 6 yards of him. He just got to turn his head back, and it zips right by him because he's not looking for the football. Hopefully, it's another thing where it's a young player. I think KJ Hamler is still only like 21 or 22 years old, one of the youngest players on the team. But he made a mistake. They still won because of it. You hope he learns from it. But KJ, man, this is a golden opportunity for him with Jerry Jeudy out right now. Like, this is a chance to really, make yourself known in the league on this team, get yourself targets going forward, showing yourself to be indispensable. And I thought he let an opportunity pass by him this week.
Another one for me, the right tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I believe that was Jawan Taylor. I thought he had a good game. I thought he had a real good game, especially considering he was a sieve against who'd they play first game?
Houston.
Thank you. I was expecting a little more from Draymond Jones. And I thought that, when Draymond Jones lined up inside and had Von Miller next to him, then you had to have two guys blocked and you couldn't double team either one of them. So the guard was getting involved and the tackle. But when it was just the right tackle and he wasn't, he could just man up on one guy. I thought Jawan Taylor did a good job and did a good job of keeping Draymond Jones fairly quiet. Von Miller was still awesome. He was putting pressure on every single pass play, every single one. So Von Miller is still Von Miller. If there's any question about what we were going to get out of Von Miller this year, he's answered those in the first 2 games.
This may be a little bit hasty, but with Chubb's injuries and how good Von looks, and you have so much money in your pocket right now as the Broncos, do you approach Von? I mean,
Yes.
Von is feeling himself right now. He loves Teddy. He took some time away from football with the injuries and whatnot, and he looks still like a dominant player. If you could lock Von up for a 4-year contract here coming up, you think that's too long for the edge?
So that's a little long. Is he 31, 32?
He's so twitchy still, and I'm hoping that on that last year of the contract, you know how contracts are. It's 4 years, but really it's 3 years.
But they're getting to be more guaranteed than they used to be.
Yeah, I'd put the guarantees on the front though.
Yeah,
like as much as I possibly could.
Yeah, you've got room now, so use it.
Yeah.
Use it now
exactly.
to. It's like, okay, we got $40 million of cap room right now. Let's give Von $40 million, and he doesn't have a cap hit the next 3 years. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, or you can just roll it over, and it's the same thing accounting wise. You're just pushing ones around. But still, I think with how good Von's looked, it's only been 2 games, but like Von looks like vintage Von. He looks as explosive as I can remember. And it looks like there's no lingering effect for that injury he had last year. I really think this might be the time to approach him for a contract, especially because I think Von is very much a empath, right? He's a very emotional kind of guy, loving it all the time. And I think he's really excited about this team right now. I'd approach him. I'd say, let's get you in here, Von, and then we'll figure out Chubb later. But right now you don't want to let good players go. And if you can keep Von around with how he's playing, and I've been somebody who's like, okay, maybe time to start thinking if first round edge rusher, because you don't know about Von Miller's injury contract. They almost got rid of him this last offseason, blah, blah, blah. Okay. 2 games. He looks like Von. I really want to pay. You have cap. You have the cap to do it. I'd really approach him right now and say, like, let's get something done. Let's keep you around.
Yeah. I had a short answer. He said, do we approach Von? Yes. Yes, yeah. We do.
And he was incredible again.
Yes. Yes, we do. And it's not just that he's so much more than just what you see on the field. I mean, he's an elite player, but he means so much more to this Denver Broncos team and the defense than just what you get from that edge. Yeah. He's a leader, a true leader of this team and this defense that, you take care of those guys. You don't let him walk. That sends a bad example to the other players. Like, if they'll let him walk, then geez, if I play like that, they're going to take care of me too. I'm in. So, Dylan, appreciate you being here, coming in from moderating the YouTube chat. Appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, Dylan, good to see you. Dave's in here. Von, 4 years, $60 million, $30 million guaranteed. You might have to bump that $30 million and maybe even that $60 million up. I think that Leonard Floyd contract's probably your basis. But I mean, he's playing so great. You're not sure what's going on with Chubb. And edge rushers are hard to find. So if you can get that guy in here and maybe even take somewhat of a hometown discount because he's feeling himself right now, I think it's the way to go. I really do.
You know what's more expensive than an edge rusher? Not having an edge rusher.
Yeah, just ask the Falcons.
Not having a pass rush gets real expensive because your team's not going to be nearly as good as it should be, and then and all the ramifications that come with a 4-13 season.
Yep. No, I agree with you. But I mean, with how he's played, the questions are, okay, is Von going to be back after that injury, his age, whatever? He looks so explosive. I think I would approach him. Chris Hernandez coming in here. Good morning. Go Broncos. Click those little thumbs up. Haven't heard that click those little thumbs up in a while, Chris. Bringing me back to the offseason. Thank you so much, Chris. Good to see you.
Chris, if I'm not mistaken, Chris is in the top 5 on Facebook stars for the Justin Simmons jersey. So either adding to or catching up to that top 5 with his contribution today. Appreciate the stars, Chris.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. Getting that name in there. So also some guys who stock up for me. I mean, we obviously talked. It's obvious Von Miller and Teddy Bridgewater are stock up guys, right? That seems pretty no dip. Another one for me that was stock up in this game though was who was it? Oh, it was Mike Purcell. Overall, I thought Mike Purcell had a really good game. The Broncos, obviously, game flow wise, they did not really have to worry about the run game later on. But early, the Jags were trying to lean into that run game, and I thought overall, James Robinson and that Jags defensive line, especially on the interior, were getting punched. And Mike Purcell stood out while Draymond Jones left me a little bit wanting. Draymond flashed like crazy against the Giants. Had this matchup against AJ Cann this week. Should have been much better. I thought I don't know what happened with Draymond this week, but he let me down. But I thought Mike Purcell had a good game.
Well, it's come down to schemes too. I mean, they made an adjustment based on the facts like, oh God, we got killed here, and this guy's better than the one we just went against. We need to change up our play calls, our cadence, where we line up our tight ends, which side we've got our backs in, all kinds of stuff. So all of that might not have been on Draymond, which should, again, if we're going to talk about an offense, let's talk about on defense.
Yeah,
should free up other players to make plays. He gave up 200 yards of total offense, 200 yards of total offense to the Jaguars. So on the whole, it was a spectacular defensive effort, and everybody's got to play their part in that, even if it means sacrificing something for the team.
Yep. No, I agree with you. And my final stock down, special teams in general. It's always something, right? And some people are like, it's not Tom McMahon's fault. Well, he's the guy who's been here 3 years, and the Broncos defense, special teams has been terrible. Thank God for Brandon McManus, right? We haven't been really worrying about the kicking game. He's been great. But you can't have that. And if you're doing that against the Jags, where you're ready to ice the game and you give that away to give them space, imagine if you're doing that against Kansas City or a team with like a really competent, potent offense, the Chargers with Justin Herbert, Justin Herbert looks so incredibly good, scaring the hell out of me. But you can't do that. You can't give those teams any breathing room when you're in that point to step on the throat. And they did that against the Jags. Special teams has got to be better. Again, we're lucky to make these mistakes early and hopefully you improve as the season goes along and still winning while you're making these mistakes. But God damn it, special teams. Like, I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of it. That's like, I make jokes, all the Broncos and the Iowa Hawkeyes, Spider-Man pointing meme because they're so similar. The Broncos have a much better quarterback than the Iowa Hawkeyes do, comparison to their peers. But special teams, the Hawkeyes have an incredible special teams unit. They win every single week. With that, they gain like 20 yards positive compared to their opponent. Broncos special teams has been butt and continues to be butt. And I'm just so tired of it. I'm done with it.
Well, it's the worst thing. If you're ever covering a team or you're a practice, I'm like, the easiest way to get, beat writer reporters to turn around and walk away is start calling for special teams, but it can flip a game. It hasn't to this point yet, but, coming a little bit close to home, I don't know how many people watched or knew about the Falcons Tampa Bay game, but that game was 28-25 and Falcons were about to get the ball back. Their punter drops a 57-yard punt on the Falcons 4. They hold them, and then the Falcons shank a punt 30 yards. Tom Brady gets the ball back on the 43 plays later. That game's now a 2-score game. It's over. So, yeah, it's incredibly important because the game, 5 touchdowns from Tom Brady, 2 pick sixes, all this, that game turned on 2 punts. And it definitely means a lot. And I know this group understands that because when I was in the gut reaction chat on Sunday, 3 out of 4 supers said something about fire the special teams coach.
It's been too long. They've been so bad for so long. So they're gonna have to improve. They even went out and traded a 5th round pick for a special teams guy that's supposed to help. You lose your best linebacker to a special teams play. So very frustrating. But what can you do? Right? That's football. I think Kansas City so far only has 1 player on IR, and the Broncos are at 10. Football gods are unfair like that sometimes, but can't control it. So Scott, I did want to get to you real quick here. How about that? Micah Parsons looking pretty damn good as an edge rusher. Did you watch
2 sacks and 2 sacks and a tackle for a loss or something. But yeah, I mean, how much different is he physically speaking than Von Miller? When they were coming out, they're both 240 pounds, both sub 4.5 guys. I think Micah may even run a 4.3, but that's a 4.4 guy. Yeah. So very similar there. And we've talked a lot about when you've got a freaky type of athlete who is just learning the game, what can I do with him to get him involved? I can put him right there on 3rd and long and say, go get that guy. It's your only job. I don't care if the 10-word string defensive call we just made. Line up, put your hand down, and go get the frickin' quarterback.
Yep.
That's how you get your athletes involved in a game. And I was a big fan of Micah Parsons, the player. I thought he was a top 5 talent. Find a way to get him involved early.
Yeah, and something I've learned watching football over the years is the off-ball linebacker position. It's obviously better to be a great athlete than not, but what really matters is right here. You got to see the game. You got to process it well. And also, you're part of the backbone of the defense, so you can't be out there guessing. Otherwise, the integrity of the whole back seven is going to be an issue. And in college, Micah Parsons, chasing tackle linebacker, not always the most instinctual, and he could get away with it in college. But with what type of athlete he was, the power, everything he had, the length. Also, I'm like, this guy's edge one. I don't know what we're talking about here. The off-field stuff, I wasn't going to take a shot from where I was at because that was concerning enough. But
there were two guys like that coming out of college I thought should have been played in that situation. It was Taylor Mays, was a safety at USC. He was 225 pounds, sub 4'4", 40-plus inch vertical leap, but had absolutely zero football instincts.
Yep.
Well, take instincts out of the game. Put him as an edge rusher.
Yep.
Put him as an edge rusher. Fine. He's 225 pounds. It's a speed rush anyway. It's a speed game. And then Boss Bailey, Champ's younger brother, was actually a better athlete than Champ, if you could believe that. He was bigger. He had a better vertical, and his 40 was within this close of being the same at 240, 245 pounds. But he was not anywhere near the football player that Champ was. Champ had he was a total package, everything.
Yeah.
Boss was just one of the best athletes to ever put on a helmet. And when he got hurt, that derailed part of that, because as soon as when you're an athlete and you lose some of that explosiveness and you're not a great football player, then he was out of the league pretty quick. But yeah, interesting players to watch and see how teams get them involved like that.
Yeah, no, I just know we had obviously the draft leading up to it. Micah Parsons was a topic of conversation between you and I.
Mm-hmm.
And I really put my foot in the ground saying Broncos like, we need to find a linebacker that's going to help solve our coverage woes versus Kelsey and Waller. And they pointed at Micah Parsons. I'm like, that's not the guy. Like, if
if you don't want Micah Parsons the person, then it doesn't matter what you get as Micah Parsons the player. It's just scratch his name off the board.
Yep. But good to see him at edge, and that's the position I thought, A, it's more valuable, and B, when you're that type of athlete, that's where you want to see him. So we'll see if he's there when the Broncos play as well. But as far as that linebacker who's going to help your coverage woes, not him. He was more of a sweeper type. If you're going to play linebacker, they're going to be Devin White, but you need you're looking for Levante David.
It's something we still could see, depending on how long Chubb is, that we could see Baron Browning out there a little bit. You know, he played some edge in certain situations in college and Senior Bowl and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, how do we get a little more depth? How do we get him involved a little bit more? How do we get him some snaps and some experience? Again, go, and he's about the same size, about 240, 245 pounds. Go get the quarterback, kid. This is going to be real easy.
Yep, I agree. And before we get on out of here, we've talked a little bit of Teddy. We've talked Javonte Williams. Your first impressions on, now that we're talking Broncos first round picks, Surtain as a starting cornerback for the Denver Broncos, getting that first pick, getting a game ball. He was amazing on that interception as well. Talk about ball skills. There's very few cornerbacks who can actually get that done like he showed on that play. But thoughts on Micah Parsons, or Patrick Surtain II on his first
I'm a big fan, obviously. First time I was ever on the Mile High Huddle pod in January, it was before free agency. And I had asked Chad, I said, Chad, if we want to talk about some of the players, what are your biggest needs? And he said, cornerback. Then he said two other things. Then he said cornerback again. I'm like, well, then you need Patrick Surtain. He's the best overall corner in this draft. And he looks even bigger and more physical than I was expecting. I mean, he's a grown man out there. Some of these tall corners, they're lanky. You think of Richard Sherman. He looks like a tall wide receiver that comes out and plays corner. Patrick Surtain, he's big, he's physical, he's fluid, he's instinctive. Is he going to make mistakes? Sure, of course. This is an offensive game. Players are going to get beat. So you have the mentality to come back and play and make the next play. Yeah, he does. So I'm looking forward to watching him play an awful lot in this team. And we talked actually, and it wasn't just us. Does he come in and play almost a nickel linebacker spot? If everybody's healthy on the defensive side and you're 3rd and long, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12, does he come in and play that rover position in the middle? Now that if Sternad's not up for that, it's a definite run passing situation. Why not have him be a rover or a jack or whatever type of wildcat they use for that terminology of a guy who's just basically a sweeper?
Yeah, no, for Surtain, I think that was originally the goal when you had a lot of depth at the cornerback position. You also saw Michael Ojemudia playing some of that role as well. when they were early in camp. Obviously not as good as Surtain, but still, he has the body type and he's a smart player. But once you lost Ojemudia, once you lost Darby, you're probably putting Surtain more as
now you need your corner to play corner.
Yep, boundary corner specifically. So that is an interesting conversation. I'm interested to see what it looks like when Darby's back and how they're going to shuffle these players around. Because I mean, are you benching Kyle Fuller? Probably not. But you're gonna have to figure out what you're gonna do there. Maybe you can slow play it with Darby, which would not be the worst play in the world considering his injury history. But it's going to be interesting. It's also going to be an interesting conversation from a team building conversation. If you love Surtain so much as that, he's playing boundary corner, but he's your chess piece. He's your first guy to come in and take the Travis Kelce's, the Darren Wallers off the field. Well, now you have another big need at boundary corner. I don't know, they'll get some eye rolls, but George Payton drafted another first round corner. If your plan is to use Surtain as a matchup piece where he can play boundary, but then he's going to line up over a big tight end too, you're going to need another boundary corner. You just are, unless you're going to sign Kyle Fuller or Michael Ojemudia takes big steps forward. But you need to have that player on the boundary that you trust if you're going to free up Surtain to be that movable piece.
Yeah, you start looking at linebackers and maybe interior offensive line, but you can do that farther down the draft.
Yep.
You can do that farther down the draft.
I fully believe the interior offensive linemen that are going to be the solutions to this team next season, not just this year, but next season, those better well be guys already on the team. You're talking about Netane Moody taking steps forward. You're talking about Quinn Miners being developed. That's why you took those guys when you did. I think Miners is going to be a totally different player after a year. Yep.
Than coming out of, I don't remember which small school. Was he the North Dakota State one or
Whitewater, Wisconsin
Whitewater. That's right. That's a big leap. I mean, that's a big leap in the trenches. It's a big leap for anybody because, as we've said before, the trenches are a grown man's place.
Yep. And
it's tough for young kids to come in to go against guys that can squat a house that are 30 years old and, just grown men, let alone someone that was playing at Wisconsin Whitewater last year.
Yep. I agree with you totally. Quick, one more shout out before we get on out of here. Congrats to Caden Stearns on getting some snaps out there and starting to be part of that rotation on the back end as well. He looked good in camp and he's starting to get a chance. I think he had that, the dropped interception as well. One went through his hands, but don't think he'll let that happen again. So shout out to Caden Stearns, 4th round pick for the Broncos, 5th round pick. But good to see him. And he's somebody who's definitely in the Broncos long-term plans for that starting safety position.
So, all right, I have one question. It's rhetorical that I want to leave with the chat, and we can talk about it later. 11 targets, 9 receptions from the tight end spot. The Broncos use a tight end enough?
Yeah, it won't be enough until every single tight end has a touchdown, and Okoye-Benams is good. Noah Fant, great job receiving. What the heck's going on with your blocking, buddy? He's been really upsetting in the blocking game. Kirk Ferentz would be sad. But guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We love y'all. It's good to see you on a Tuesday. We'll see you again on Thursday morning. You can find Scott and myself on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendall MHH. You can also follow us at Huddle Up Pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. Go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod to continue the conversation on there. If you're joining us on YouTube today, please subscribe, like, and share. You guys also make sure you're following Scott's channel at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. We will see you guys over there tomorrow to talk a little bit of Atlanta Falcons. Oh man. Sorry.
No, but it'll be good. We'll be talking about the Giants too. That's who the Falcons have the Giants coming up. So there will be some comparisons from two people who have watched all of the teams involved. So between the first 3 games, Denver Broncos, New York Giants, Atlanta Falcons, we can drop some comparisons and how the Falcons might try and attack them based on where the Denver Broncos had success.
Yep. Nope, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Everybody who contributed, everybody who's got eyeballs in here. I'll see you guys tonight for Building the Broncos. Actually, we will see you tonight for Building the Broncos. It's going to be Scott and I again Tuesday night. So
it is. I was like, I'll be there. I'm like, wait, I really will be there.
You will be there.
If you didn't get enough of us this morning, we'll be back.
Yeah, we'll see you guys tonight as well because Carl is still abroad taking care of some family business down in the Dominican. But we'll see you guys tonight. So just a few short hours. You guys, rest up, hit the showers, bring your mind right. And we'll talk some more Broncos, Jags, and maybe now we'll see where the conversation goes as well. If you guys got anything, get us up on Twitter. We can.
Yeah,
we're happy to talk
Tuesday
about
night we might look a little bit towards the Jets. That should be fun. I like making fun of New York.
Yeah, God. Zach
and
Wilson,
not just
baby.
the Jets. I mean,
Babyface.
New York.
All right, guys. We'll see you later tonight. Go Broncos.
Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos.